precarious protection. They sparked protests and public outrage last year, but the state government is adamant new work cover reforms are slashing premium costs and simplifying disputes. But the elimination of accident coverage to and from workplaces, along with a stepped-up regime of health assessments, has many lawyers worried the scheme is unfair to injured workers. Now, a second wave of insurance reforms to the state's compulsory third-party driver insurance could see a no-fault accident scheme extend coverage to dangerous drivers. While victims and their advocates fear cruelly inadequate compensation, the government maintains the reforms make sense. Charmaine Ingram reports.
Troy Cameron no longer holds the reins of his family's life. The former racing steward wonders if he'll ever return to work on the track. For now, his passion for horses is lived throughout his daughters.
Probably the hardest thing I find physically, though, is when my girls sort of, say, "Dad, can you come out and, kick a ball or throw me in the air or something like that?" You've got to say no to them because I just can't physically do it.
How are you feeling?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Peter.
Not too bad? How's that pain in your back?
Yeah, it's still there.
Troy Cameron has lost count of the number of medical appointments he's had since he suffered a near-fatal car accident on his way home from work 2 years ago to the week.
It appeared to be a dog of some sort, and I swerved to miss the animal, and at that stage I just lost control of the car. Hit a guardrail, and the car flipped a few times, and ended up around a tree. Sorry.
Troy Cameron sustained debilitating injuries and has had several major operations on his neck, back and a total hip replacement. 2 years on and there's still more painful surgery to come. He counts himself lucky not only to be alive, but because his assessment occurred before June last year. That's when the O'Farrell government scrapped the journey claim for workers who injured themselves travelling to and from their job. The change was part of a raft of compensation reforms that angered unions and workplace experts like John McPhilbin.
A lot of people are now receiving what are called work capacity decision notifications, where they're given 3 months before their benefits are cut, both medical and weekly benefits.
Approximately 25,000 people in New South Wales receive work cover. That's the state's compensation scheme. Since January, 2,000 of those claims have been reassessed. According to the Finance Minister, it's a win-win for employers and workers.
Our key focus is on return to work, because what we want to see is as many injured workers as possible return to work.
Minister Pearce also says no incapacitated victims have been cut off workers' compensation.
Of those, about a third have resulted in return to work, an assessment of capacity to return to work, or the employee has simply returned to work themselves.
But that's not what lawyers believe. Some fear insurance company medical experts will have the final say.
And if the doctor says that person is fit to go back to work, that is, there is no right of appeal, even though the injured person's own very highly qualified treating specialist may say no, that person's not fit to go back to work.
Lawyers say clients like Troy Cameron could now be assessed with a health impairment of less than 10%, and that would likely exclude them from funding further appeals or extending claims.
Oh, look, yeah, it's certainly a huge concern. As I said, I've got a wife and 2 children that I've got to look after, and look, I'll be honest, it's something I don't really want to think about. To be clear, I don't think people in this position should have to worry about that.
Minister Pearce says victims like Troy Cameron will be looked after.
If we're talking about a relatively young man with children, I'm sure he would want to go back to work. If he can't get back to work, then our scheme will ensure that he's appropriately compensated and looked after.
With the workers' compensation reform saving businesses thousands of dollars on premiums, the O'Farrell government has flagged the CTP, or Compulsory Third-Party Insurance Scheme, for a similar reform.
Under the scheme we have at the moment, insurers were able to and did get windfall profits of up to 30%. And to me, that's not the right outcome on a scheme like this.
The draft proposal is currently pushing a no-fault scheme, which will allow drivers who cause accidents to make claims. But that's left the Greens Party wondering how that will bring premiums down.
You can't expand greatly the number of people who get benefits and reduce premiums without having savage cuts.
Heidi Moore was T-boned in a car wreck 2 years ago. She's suffered crippling neck and back injuries since and is now worried about her future under a new system.
If they turn around and say you're getting nothing, yeah, it's gonna be really, really hard. I would have to look at probably selling my home, my children's home, and I fought hard to get that house. And yeah, it'll hurt. It'll hurt a lot to have to give up everything I've struggled for.
Her lawyer, David Potts, says about 90% of drivers could be hit severely with benefit cuts.
It's like you're having a barbecue. You put out less food, but you invite more guests. Someone's going to go very hungry.
Greens MP David Shoebridge says the state government is merely bowing down to insurance companies.
We saw this government put through some compo reforms, which were a gift to employers and a gift to those private insurers who manage compo claims. And now they're doing the same for the CTP scheme.
But Minister Pearce maintains the scheme will provide better coverage and fast-track insurance to those who need it most.
The scheme should be about adequately looking after everybody who is essentially innocently involved in an accident on the roads.
For now, the future for victims like Troy Cameron seems uncertain, and the confusion of ever-changing reforms makes matters worse.
It hurts both financially and emotionally. Not being able to do what men in a house are supposed to do, sort of thing.